Good morning. My name is Noelani Pearl Hunt, and I'm the interim CEO of Hand in Hand Parenting. Today, I'm joined by Julie Eidelman, who is our Director of Marketing. I'm so excited to get to know each and every one of you today. Parenting is the most important and rewarding role that I have, and I bet it is for all of you. What if it was just a little bit easier? Hand in Hand Parent Club gives advice, support, and caring for the toughest, most important role you have. Today, we're launching the Hand in Hand Parent Club. Before we get started with our guests, let me tell you a little bit more about the Parent Club. It's a membership that gives you the absolute best information we have to offer, delivered to your inbox every week, with the added support of weekly Facebook Live calls and conference calls, and a supportive parenting community, with free access to our Setting Limits and Building Cooperation course, and Q&A sessions every 5 weeks with the founder of Hand in Hand Parenting. And that's all accessible right on your phone. I'm so excited because today we get to hear from real parents about their experiences with Hand in Hand. So Julie, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
So I'm Julianne. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Hand in Hand. I've been with Hand in Hand for a dozen years or so. After finding it myself as a parent in great need of extra support. And so I've used it for years and years and seen how kids grow up with this approach. And I love it more every day. I'm so glad to be able to share this with parents out in the world. It made a huge difference in my life, and I get to see every week somebody writes us saying how much this changed their lives, how appreciative they are, and that makes it one of the best jobs in the world.
I know Julie has been instrumental in getting the Parent Club all started, and all of the great marketing that you see, just everything. So we are so thankful at Hand in Hand to have Julie, and we're so thankful to get started here in a couple minutes. Our first guest, Lindsay, is going to be coming up in a few minutes. She's a parent who is really excited to share with us some of her experiences with Hand in Hand. So why don't we bring Lindsay in, Julie, first? Does that sound good?
That's great.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you? Good to be here.
We're so glad to have you today. Why don't
you.
you tell us how many children you have and and where you're from?
Okay, I live in Washington, D.C. I have two children, a rising second grader who's 7 and a 5-year-old who's going into kindergarten.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And I discovered Hand in Hand while living in Thailand about 4 years ago. And it really resonated, and it fit. And it's been an incredible source of support and kind of my touchstone as a parent.
Lindsay, how did you first find it?
You know, it's funny. I was trying to look back and find out. I used to scour the internet researching different parenting approaches. I read every book there was. I over studied, I would say, before becoming a parent, and was kind of held hostage, or rather my overzealous reading of the attachment literature put a lot of pressure. So that was my starting point. So I'm not sure. It's possible that I learned about it from a parent coach who I was working with, who happened to be going through a program, and I was one of her guinea pigs.
Was there something special you were hunting for on the internet?
Honestly, I think I was looking for a key, right? A fix. I have some mechanical issues and I need a fix. And that's certainly not what I found in Hand, right? I mean, it won't just fix your kind of surface issue. It cuts right to the core. So I think what was different about Hand in Hand was the starting point, which I summarize it. It sounds a little crass when I say it, but if the starting point, I mean, when I heard it from Patty, the starting point being that We come with our emotional baggage. We're trying to do our best. If there's a place that we can process that emotional baggage, it'll help us be the best parent we can. So that really resonated. The idea that we will inevitably blame our children for our pain to some extent because we're human, and that we can mitigate it if we look at some of that pain and how it's getting in the way. So that
We
was
didn't have
definitely
to look at it before they started bugging us about it.
right. Right.
So, Julie,
Although they bug
so
us pretty early
they do.
about it.
Um, Lindsay, what would you want someone to know about Hand in Hand? I know sometimes it's hard to kind of put into words what Hand in Hand is. And what I say is always it's really common sense tools to be able to use when you're just the most frustrated or tired, for you to come back and kind of recenter yourself to your children. But that's the way I explain it. How would you explain it to someone, or what would you want them to know about Hand in Hand?
Right. I agree that idea that it's very grounding and very accessible. It's extremely accessible. Um, the idea that it's about connection, that it's really about deepening your connection with yourself and with your children.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when we're in moments of chaos, these tools, you can really kind of rely on these tools, not to fix all, but to start kind of getting back to what's really important,
Mm-hmm.
which is your connection with your children, the warmth, the love. I think the other part is to disabuse people of the notion that it's permissive. I love hearing this idea of early and often limits, earlier and more often than other positive discipline approaches might suggest, like early and often before you become emotional in setting that limit, so that you can do it lovingly. I think that's the other distinction for me.
It's so
Patty
funny.
often,
Oh, go ahead, Julie.
Patty often says, you want to go to them at the first whiff of off track behavior. It's like, I would have never done that. Seriously would have never thought of that. I would have been as patient as I could, as
Hmm.
long as I could, until I wanted to kill them.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a very different approach. I think what makes it look permissive to some people is that it's not harsh.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Right. I think for us, we think in a way that harsh is the way that what we've learned, some of us have learned in that authoritative kind of parenting way, but from our parents, is being harsh is the way that you force a child to do the things that you want to do, and that really isn't the way it is. For myself, I have a 22, almost 23-year old, and some of her life was very much me being authoritative, and then just recently I've kind of switched to this hand in hand special time connection with her. So setting those limits really early is really important. You can do it on the back end, but it just takes a little extra time to do it with them.
Mm-hmm. And I also think the power in so much can be done with setting the limit, not just kind of helping guide a child as to how to behave in the world and what's acceptable and what's not, but also to allow the child to kind of rub up against it. And if it's cloaked in harshness, in a way the child can be rubbing up against the anger versus the actual substance of the limit. Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
it's even
That's
more
it.
powerful, I would say.
So tell us a little bit about what your family was like before you found Hand in Hand.
Whew.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
This always brings tears to my eyes. I mean, before Hand in Hand, on the surface, I essentially became a predominantly stay-at-home mother, working part-time as a trainer and in advocacy in the field that I was involved in before, which was sexual reproductive rights and health. And I think on the outside, I think people used to marvel at my patience and my playfulness. On the inside, I felt uh, I felt pressure. I felt anxious. I lacked fulfillment. Um, what happened with Hand in Hand and actually some other modalities was I realized that just how much my family of origin or history was getting in the way. And I was so triggered by the disposition of one of my children that there was a part of me that couldn't quite accept him, which is what brings tears to my eyes, because that's 3 years of possible repair, because I was so triggered. You know, I was taught to be what gave me value as a child was having no disruptive emotions unless they were positive, and being easy breezy all the time. And my child's very intense and not particularly sunny. Um, and I was triggered all the time, and my child could feel it. My words, and furthermore, I think it was confusing. I would say one thing, it's okay to have feelings, but really the subtext was, wow, that's so scary. Please, it's too much. And it's amazing how attuned children are. So I think there was underlying tension is what looked different. And as a result, my child, while there was a lot of love, and I think I paint a more dour picture than it really was, but a lot of love, but a lot more off track behavior because my child wasn't feeling fully seen and accepted. So now that's changed significantly. Even in the past year, where I'm currently in an instructor certification course as a candidate, the trust, the love is so much stronger. My husband, who is triggered by our other child, is wild, and not at all by this child. They have the same disposition, kind of intense. Just marvels at how much more tenderness there is, and I attribute that to my being able to unload, my in listening partnerships, my being able to allow him to unload through stay listening, and my ability to kind of really see and be curious, and through special time.
Did you have an aha moment when you realized, hey, this works?
Several. I think, positive psychology will suggest if you go into it with a mindset, special time of openness and curiosity, and you put your kind of stuff, you've had self-compassion about what you're bringing to the table, would suggest that you will kind of be able to see more, you'll think more creatively, and your natural intelligence, as Patty always likes to say, will come to the fore. So I feel like there's constant ahas. And I'm seeing through stay listening so many more times where my child is kind of telling me what they need in terms of, just space to process this. And this is what the real issue is, or just, yeah. So I can't think of one particular aha, but just several. Constant.
Sounds good.
That's amazing. Well, I just want to let you know, Lindsay, that you are a wonderful mother. And it shows not only by researching and trying to get out there and find out how you could be a better parent, but I can just tell I want you to be my mom. You're just so warm and so fuzzy, and so we appreciate you being a part of the Hand in Hand family. In the spirit of hand in hand parenting, why don't we close with a quick thing here? Why don't you tell us what went well for you this week?
Okay. This is our last week of school, and my children are just feeling a great sense of belonging and community at their school, as we wrap it up. So seeing them excited and engaged and grateful for what they have at their school, I think is what's going well.
That's great. Lindsay, thank you again so much for sharing your story with us. We can't thank you enough. Have a great weekend, and we're so excited that you're a part of our instructor certification program.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, Julie, it's so interesting to hear these stories from these parents. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we've seen in the Parent Club and what kind of things that people will be able to get from being a part of our Parent Club?
So the Parent Club is really for the parent who wants to know more, who wants to figure out how all these different, you hear about different hand-in-hand tools, and you hear about a listening partnership, and it takes a little bit of thinking about it and planning to bring it all together. What Hand in Hand presents is a system. All the pieces work together and they support one another. When you come into the parenting club, you've got an email every week that gives you topical information on video, reading, with a podcast, whatever is top of mind for parents at Hand in Hand right now. And it helps you kind of keep your hand in hand parenting on track. It's a nice way to just reset, grab your email, start over. This is going to be a good week. And inside the club, there's always people that you can connect with. You can vent. You can share your latest triumph. You can just ask a practical question. Should I do this? Should I do that? Does roughhousing before bedtime really help? All the things that you want to know more about. And inside the parent club is one of our most popular self-guided classes. It's a class about setting limits in a way that builds cooperation in your family. So it gives you a foundation of how do I do some of the most important things I need to do in my family the hand-in-hand way, so that I'm building the best foundation of relationship that I can. It's your relationship with your child that's most important for them, and it's also your most important gift to them. So it's a big benefit on both sides. And the club gives you a place to nurture that with lots of support from hand-in-hand instructors, with regular QA calls, with Patty dropping by to check in on you. It's just a great place to do that.
Well, I'm really excited about the parent club, and I know we have parents that are coming in and out all day today telling us about the wonderful experience that they had. So next we have Mihala that's going to come in and share a little bit about Hand in Hand. Mihala, we are so excited to have you here today with us. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for
Hello.
Hi.
You're so welcome. Mihala, why don't you tell us about where you're from and how many kids do you have?
I'm originally from Romania, but I have been living in Miami, Florida for 16 years now. And I have one son, Alexander. He is 6.5 years old.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Of course. So what brought you to Hand in Hand and how did you find us?
Ooh, that's a big question. I knew before I became a mother that I will be a different kind of mother, and that I will naturally approach parenting from a consciousness perspective. That I knew. I just didn't know where that road will take me. And I stayed committed to that knowing and raising Alexander in a conscious way. I kept searching for tools and reading and educating myself in terms of how can I become the best mom that I could. And listening to him was natural to me. I knew instinctively that my first job as a parent is to create a safe emotional environment for him. So tantrums and crying did not scare me. However, I reached a point in which I recognized that I need to do more work with myself to eliminate, if possible, raising my voice, yelling, the triggers, right, that were very alive and active inside of me, which I knew that had nothing to do with him, but he was the vehicle for those to come alive. So from one thing to another, I started reading the usual suspects, Dr. Shifali and Daniel Siegel and all that. But I felt that there were not enough or not concrete tools that I could apply immediately in my work with my son. So I started about a year ago searching for parenting coaches programs or certification programs of some sort because I am a teacher. So naturally, I felt the need to share with other parents what I was doing and to learn from each other. And luckily, I'm very grateful for Otilia, who is from Romania, and she's doing amazing work in Romania. She's a certified hand-in-hand instructor. So I had been following her blog for a while at that point, and one day I told myself, I'm going to read her bio to see where she's coming from. And when I saw that she's a certified hand-in-hand parenting from California, I said to myself, I am in US. It's probably possible. So let me look into it. So I took the starter course this spring. Then I applied, and I loved it because while doing the course, I applied the tools in a aware way, intentional way, programmatic way with Alexander. And whatever I was doing before that to me was instinctive. Now I had a system. Now I had a language. I had a psychology behind it that makes sense to me. That, wait a minute, right now I know that his reasoning mind is shut down. So even though I was doing listening before, now by learning about still listening, I was able to do it at a whole new level, talking less, only saying those little few words, and allowing him to open more and open more. And to me, that was miraculous because it was the first time when I saw so much surfacing. Not that before he wouldn't tell me, because he was used to feeling safe, telling me about feeling angry and sad and upset or excited. He has a pretty good vocabulary of emotions. But now I even gave up on naming the emotions because now I know better, right? So I learned to be a better listener, and for me, I learned to be a more playful parent, which did not come as naturally to me as listening. And the self-care part was also miraculous. Now I have two listening partners, one from Brazil and one from Australia, whom I found through the Facebook group, and I'm so grateful to both moms. We're becoming friends. I don't know if that's allowed or not, but it's actually.
I won't tell.
Yeah, we won't tell anyone. Don't worry. Your secret's safe with all of us.
So when you talk to people who don't know about hand-in-hand parenting, what do you tell them? What do you want them? What do you wish every parent knew about hand-in-hand?
If I were to only pick one sentence that makes it easy for everybody to grasp, I would say it's okay for them to have tantrums. It's healing.
Yeah.
Embrace the moment. Be joyful when your child throws himself on the floor and cries or tells you, I don't love you right now. You're so mean. Or he wants to throw a toy up in the air, because the behavior in that moment is not the problem. The emotion that's behind it that needs to be healed, the big emotional project that he's working on right now, he or she, is what you must be grateful for, because you don't want your child to carry that for 20 years like you and I did, because we did not have parents with the tools that now we do. So just that, embrace the moment in which they go into a tantrum. That is the healing moment. That's not the problem. The behavior is never the problem. It's the emotion behind it that needs to be healed. And thankfully, they know I need to heal. I need to heal. So they have a natural mechanism that signals us, I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to let go of this big fear or this big anger or this big hurt, things like that.
You know, we are so lucky to have you. So can you tell us a little bit about how your family has changed now that you have Hand in Hand and you're using the techniques?
Absolutely. I changed first, which was what I was looking for, because children are perfect. They are not defective. No matter what their behavior is, they're good children, like Patty says, and we are good parents. So my family dynamic changed because I changed, and I changed in my level of awareness when triggers would kick in. So as soon as a trigger would kick in, my awareness automatically went from 0 to 100, and I was able to self-regulate on the spot, to know that this is me feeling this way because he said this word or he did this. However, he's not the problem. I am able now to call on all my patience and all my listening power so I can take care of his big emotional project first. And I will take care of mine when I have my listening partnership tomorrow or tonight or this week. So that level of awareness allowed me, and the tool allowed me to self-regulate a million times faster than I was able to do it before. So as a result of that, I am much more patient. I am much more calm. My voice is naturally strong and big. I've been teaching for a long time and I am born with it. So I'm to keep it lower and steadier because children connect to the vibration of our voice, not to what we put up as a mask, as we know. And I am naturally more able to be present and mindful and be in a listening mode. This shift from wanting to immediately help into I am going to listen for as long as it takes. For as long as it takes, I am willing and able, and I have all the time in the world to listen. I am most of the times not rushed when it comes to listening. So that's good, unless we're in a situation when we have to go to school, and that I know it will come back and we'll work on it later. So that's how my dynamic changed in my family.
That's so interesting, Mihala. You said something that really kind of connects with me. So I am the loud, boisterous voice in my family, and my daughter and actually everyone around me is telling me I should be a little quieter. So it's really great that you were able to see that in yourself and understand that our children kind of connect to that. And our voice and our inflection is something that everyone connects to, but it's really important for our children to know that we love them, and that's one of the ways they pick up on those things. So we can't thank you enough for being here. So in the spirit of Hand in Hand, why don't we close with something that went well for you this week?
Well, this week, a lot of things were good and went well. Alexander was out of school. This was his first week of summer vacation. So we were home together a lot, and we did a lot of special time together. And he plays soccer in a team. So now with World Cup happening, We've been playing a lot of soccer with a softball inside the house. He's Ronaldo, I'm Messi, and it's not a competition. We play very friendly. So it's that time every day of connection with him without the rush and the schedule of our otherwise routine when he's in school.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We can't thank you enough for being a part of our family. We will see you during our certification. Thank you.
I cannot wait.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Julie, gosh, these stories are just so inspirational. And, you've been with Hand in Hand a lot longer. So tell me a little bit of what you think or what you're looking forward to in the parenting club before we bring one of my favorite people on, Velma.
I love the aha moments. I love the moments. If you're teaching a starter class, it's usually the second or third week. Parents start to put the whole system together and they start to see that it really does make a difference to their kids. And when you have that moment of, I get it. They're really not trying to drive me crazy. They're having a hard time. I see this now. The light bulb goes on and you get to experience that moment of that shift, that change in the way parents see their relationship with their child.
Mm-hmm.
So I love those moments. And I know that, being in the parent club and having all this information kind of ordered for you is going to make it a lot easier for people to get to those moments and to understand how you put the whole thing together and how you make a big difference for your family.
I know, it's huge. It's such a great place where not only they'll get this information, but they'll also really be able to get that support from other parents. Even if it's just, let me vent about this, and then parents remind us that we are great parents. We're human, we make mistakes, but we're also great parents and we love our kids. So I think that the parent club, that's one of my favorite parts. And talking about favorite things, so not including you in this mix, because you are one of my favorite employees with Hand in Hand. But Velma is also my favorite. I have lots of favorites. So why don't we bring Velma on? I'm sure a lot of you will recognize Velma's beautiful voice. Hi, Velma. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
We're doing well. We're so excited to see you.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Velma is our program manager for our instructors. She actually keeps all of us on time and organized and all the trains running. So we are so thankful to have Velma, but I'm really excited to have Velma here so she can share her story with us. So why don't we start with where you're from and how many children you have?
I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I have one child who is 7, and his name is Oliver. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Great. So what brought you to Hand in Hand, and how did you find us?
Well, my son was 18 months old, and I hadn't slept for about that long at the time.
I believe that.
Hours at a stretch. And I was doing one of those desperate late night Google searches. How can I get my kid to sleep? And I didn't want to do sleep training. That didn't feel quite right. And I didn't want to leave him alone to cry. So I was looking for something that felt warmer, that like made space for him and me. And I found an article on sleep through Hand in Hand. And then I booked a consultation because I'm like, I don't have time to like read a whole bunch of stuff. I need help now.
I mean, sleep now.
I need sleep now. And it helped. It really, really did. That one consultation got me through. The consultation and the booklets got me through for like another year or so. And I took a starter class. And then a year later, I took another starter class. And then a year later, I signed up for the instructor certification program.
That's
So
great.
I like
So
Fantastic.
interesting.
I like to
We've-
credit hand in hand with the thing that helped me crawl out of that postpartum pit that I was in.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. You know, one of the common themes that I've heard, well, I've heard two common themes. It's lack of sleep. That's when people have found us because they're doing Google searches trying to find out how do I sleep. And it's so funny because, you know, back when I had my daughter, the research I did was in the library. So I was reading voraciously, trying to figure out how I didn't, you know, break this little tiny person. And, you know, I'm so thankful that Hand in Hand is here to help other parents sure. Um, what would you want someone to know about Hand in Hand now that you're a part of, you know, not only the staff, you're with the instructors? What would you want to know or want them to know?
I would want them to know that Hand in Hand is it's where I learned that it was okay to be human and that it was okay to make mistakes and it was okay to take care of myself. And that is a huge, huge gift. And that if we could share that with every parent, like that would change so many things.
When you first started using the hand in hand tools, what was the first difference you noticed?
The first difference I noticed was that I became much more comfortable with my son's emotions.
That's a good thing.
I thought that my job as a parent before I came to Hand in Hand was to make sure that my son was always happy and never ever upset.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of work.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And the first big difference was making space for him to have those tantrums and to have opinions that were different than mine. Because 18-month-old kids have opinions that are different than their parents. So
sometimes very different.
I didn't know how to make space for that. And with that, parenting became more fun. Like allowing, like it kind of took the pressure off. And it's like a big sigh of relief. And it's like, okay, I don't have to be this perfect super mom. I can, my son can be upset about something, and that doesn't mean that I'm failing. It actually probably means that I'm doing something well.
You know, I have some questions in the lobby, and I have two experts here. So I'm wondering if we could take maybe a second and possibly answer one of the questions that we have. Would that be okay?
Sure.
If we can answer them. Lindsay Alexander is asking a question here. So I'm going to read what she said, and let's see if we might be able to, with my two experts here, answer her question. So her child is 3 and going through some of what we're talking about. And she said, just hearing what we're saying for 20 seconds has made a huge difference. She's had about 5 tantrums yesterday that nearly put her over the edge. We've all been there. My daughter has tantrums on her text messages that put me over the edge. So you're not alone there. And it would have been great if she heard us yesterday morning. So how does she come back and work on it later when she's rushed and has somewhere to be at the time. So she can't really focus on that time that they need right there. So because she has to go off to work or whatever, how do you come back to it later when you're rushed?
Well, I know that there have been times when we have to get out the door. We have to get to summer camp, or we have to get to school. And the first thing I do at those times is I really ask myself, do I really have time now? Or do I really not have time now? And sometimes I do. And if I do, then I stay and I give some time. But if I don't, I say to my son, it's like, and I've been doing this for a while, and I learned this from Patty. It's like, Oliver, I don't have the capacity and the space to listen to you right now. I really want to, and we need to do this other thing. So can we come back to it later? And then he and I have built up enough trust through special time, through play listening, that he believes me and he trusts me. And he's able to go, oh, okay. And then we often can get out the door. And then when we come back, there's always some beautiful excuse that he has to bring it up again. It may not be the same thing that it was in the morning, but I make sure that I make space for it then. I don't know. I hope that's helpful. That's something that I've done.
No, I think that's great.
It's the same thing so a listening partnership is like your big chance to throw a tantrum of your own and to let out whatever horrible thing was in the back of your mind that you would never, ever want to say out loud to your child. But to tell your listening partner in private, in confidentiality, whatever it is you need to get off your mind. And you can get really into this emotional experience, and then your time is over. So you've got to kind of rein it in so that you can pull yourself back together so that you can really give your attention and listen to your listening partner. So one of the things that we do in between that, okay, let it out, and now you need to stop letting it out so that you can live your life and do other things, and maybe it's your partner's turn. So what we do is we ask very cognitive questions, something that doesn't have a lot of feeling to it, but something you need to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So name all the states that start with M. Or tell me 3 things in the back of your car that really have no business being there. Or, something to get people thinking. So if you are with your 3-year-old walking into your sister's wedding, and the 3-year-old suddenly decides they're not going and they're about to throw a tantrum, you need to quickly think of something cognitive. Think of maybe we'll find some Pokemon in the church where the wedding is. Who do you think we might find? Or something. Do you see that funny hat that lady's wearing? How many funny hats are going to be in the wedding? And get them thinking for a minute. One of the reasons that we don't encourage you to label your child's feelings when they're upset and talk about them is that it's very, very hard to think about how you feel and feel your emotions at the same time. It's much easier to think about your emotions when you're not in the middle of expressing them, especially for a child. They can't talk about how they feel and feel how they feel at the same time. So if you have to give them an opportunity to feel their feelings and be present with them and listen to those feelings later, then you can try to shift them into a more talking, thinking, cognitive space. It's not going to work forever. It's not a regular practice that you want to use because that's not the point. The point is to get you in shape so you can listen to how they feel. But there are going to be times when you just can't do it right now. So it works for you. It could help them get through the wedding.
See, I knew with the two of you, I would get the perfect answer. Velma, we are just about to bring on Kaja, and you can correct me with the pronunciation of your name. I apologize if it wasn't correct. In a couple of seconds. So I wanted to, in the spirit of Hand in Hand, ask you to share something that happened this week that was great.
Well, play listening is the hardest tool for me. Like, I'm a very serious person. So I work on this play thing. I have to consciously do that. But last night at dinner, Ollie was really upset. He was upset about something, and more than likely that I didn't get to spend much time with him before making dinner. And he spit a pea at me. And I'm like, oh dear. we need to go, take some time here. Let's go do the connecting thing. And we went over to the couch and I said, Ollie, I really, really, really want to spit a pea at you. Can I spit a pea at you? He's like, they're all the way in there, Mom. It's like, well, do you promise to stay here while I go get a pea? Okay. Went to the kitchen, I got some peas and I spit peas at my son. And he laughed. And I laughed, and dinner was great after that. So I'm really proud of myself for thinking to spit peas instead of going serious.
I am very proud of you too, and I wish that you had a video of that because that would have been great to see.
I'm sure.
Okay, good. Velma, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your work with the Parent Club, and we're so happy to have you be part of the family.
Thank you. I am so happy to be helping Hand in Hand this way.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Julie, how lucky are we to have Velma?
Oh, we're lucky.
She's
incredibly organized, and it's a huge help. I'm sure everybody out there knows that when you run a nonprofit organization, you try to do every last thing you can possibly do for the people that you're caring for. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that gets really messy and disorganized because we're all trying to do a little bit more than we're actually capable of doing. But Velma makes us much more effective. So it's a pleasure to have her with us.
Velma's great. We're really excited. So next, why don't we bring in our next guest, and she will correctly pronounce her name for us. We're so excited to have her here today. Hi.
Hi. So my name is Katja.
Katja, thank you. I appreciate it. Having a name like Noelani, I'm very aware that names are different to pronounce. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we respect that. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how many children you have?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm from Germany, and I have 3 children, one of my own with my husband, and my husband has 2 children that join us every 2 weeks. So we're a little bit, mixed, not always 5, or sometimes 5. So we have very different situations. And then we have a mix of 3 languages because my husband speaks English with my daughter and with me. And the 2 other children speak Dutch with him, and he speaks Dutch with them. And I speak German with them, and I speak German with our daughter. So it's a very interesting and exciting. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. What a beautiful family.
Yeah.
It's going to be brilliant when they learn to swear in 3 languages.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. Yeah. It actually just started recently. Yeah. But it's the older ones, they start using German swear words now.
So we'd love to know more about how you found Hand in Hand.
Wow, how did I find hand-in-hand parenting? Well, I think I found it through I was part of this camp, this Circle Way camp that was led by this indigenous elder Mani Tongkwat, Medicine Story, that's his name, and yeah, it sounds very interesting, and he actually knows Patty from I don't know where, and he really thinks she's doing great work, and he also, there is a lot of similarities in his what he's like trying to spread about coming together in a circle and also listening to each other. So through that, I already had a listening partnership, just actually very similar, yeah, and at some point when I had my my girl and she was about 2 years old, I just got to the point where yeah, just the listening alone, and I didn't really know how to move on, or I don't know, turn things around for us, and I was stressed, and so I started searching. And actually, my listening partner, she told me, "Hey, why don't you find out about Patty Whiffler?" She, you know, she reminded me. So I already knew about her, but I never really tried to find out more. And then my listening partner, she told me, yeah, to find that she already knew some German manuscripts from years ago, and she told me about that. And then I bought the book Listen. Yeah, that's how it all started.
Oh,
Did you buy the book in English or did you buy it in German?
English. No, I bought it in English, like I believe 2 years ago or something. Yeah, and
Because it's finally available in German.
I know. I heard about that. Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah, that will be helpful. Yeah.
It would. So before we ask you the next question, I just want to, because I didn't do it. So I wanted to thank Julie and Velma for answering Lindsay's question. I think that we've got her off to a good start, and hopefully she joins our parent club. So we're really excited about that. So Katja, what would you want someone to know about Hand in Hand? What is that special thing, or how would you put it into your own words about what Hand in Hand is?
Yeah, well, I think that hand-in-hand parenting is offering very like a hands-on approach, like really the 5 tools that they work so beautifully, and you can really integrate them into your own life, and there's so much flexibility what to make out of it and how to use them in your own family with your own very individual situation. Yeah, that's something I really like, and it's a lot of fun also. I mean, and it's very hard, of course, but it's also a lot of fun. Yeah.
Do you find a big difference between the traditional German culture of parenting and the traditional Dutch idea of parenting, adapting to hand-in-hand tools?
I don't think that, well, my husband doesn't really have a typical Dutch kind of way of parenting. So, because his background is actually African, so there comes other traditional influences. Yeah, but
do you think it works pretty much the same no matter what culture you're from?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And I think if you are, if you can see the effects and you are convinced that it works, it doesn't matter which background you have, really. Yeah.
That's great. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how things changed in your family, what differences you first noticed?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest difference is to actually have a lot of listening time for myself, because I noticed that if I even want to listen to my kids, I have to get a lot of listening time because I get so re-stimulated and thrown back into my own childhood, where actually one of those things was that if I showed emotions, then I was looked at as like not being nice or not behaving or something like that, So it's like, okay, you can come back you can be nice again, something like that. So when my daughter has feelings and I surely wasn't allowed to show those kind of feelings, then it gets hard. But the more listening time I have, the easier it is for me to just stay with me and not take it personal. And it makes such a difference, really. And it's so nice if I can be there and she's screaming bloody murder. One of the instructor from my starter class used that. I like it. That's actually what it is most of the time. Yeah. And because she actually, my daughter just loves to like pin her anger or whatever is there at the moment on me, and it's just so nice to stay calm. And I'm really, if I can do that, which I really can't do all of the time because I still get re-stimulated, of course, and I'm sure even in a few years I'll probably still get re-stimulated, and it's frustrating because I would love to not get re-stimulated, but I think it's unrealistic. Yeah. But, yeah, and one thing that I really love that changed is I try to bring more playful responses when, like, for example, the small one, she loves to like start kicking me at some point when we're on the couch, and when I talk to my husband and she feels like we're not giving enough attention to her, so I know what's up if that's happening. So at some point I started to like take her feet and put them on my ear and say, oh, hello, who's calling there right now? and she picks up on that game right away, and she stops with the kicking, and then she tells me, oh, you got it, like that other one, and then she tells me who's calling and who's calling on the other side and what I have to do, and it just goes into this game, and it's just so, yeah, it's just really brilliant, and it just feels much better than telling her, oh, stop kicking me, because it doesn't also help either. So
that's really beautiful. Your family sounds a lot like mine. So I also have a blended family. So I have a almost 23-year-old. Her birthday is, I can't believe, very, very soon.
Wow.
And then I have 3 bonus children. I have a 16-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son.
Wow.
So we have a really full house. And I'm wondering if you found Hand in Hand tools helpful as you were blending your 2 families together.
Well, lately I've started to actually try the tools also with the older ones. And especially when I play with them outside, like I've been trying to play more with them, go on the playground, play hide and seek, like all of that. Then they all team together and just go against me. They even come up and tell me, hey, we need to play hide. You are the dinosaur or something like that, or the lion or the zombie or whatever. And then they tell me, because then they can all team up against me. And I noticed that really makes such a big difference, because sometimes it's so hard for them to connect. And especially in the beginning when the new weekend starts and they just arrived, and then mostly it's about the little one has a hard time sharing her toys. Of course, she's not used to it, because like 2 weeks she don't have to share anything with anybody, and maybe in kindergarten, but not at home. And then all of a sudden she has to share things, and then there's 2 people, and then they're older and bigger, and they're taking everything away from her. And so it's always interesting, but to try to break the tension with play always works, always.
That's so great. Well, thank you for sharing this with us. So in the spirit of Hand in Hand, we're going to do a quick close. And why don't we take 30 seconds and you let us know what went well for you this week?
Alrighty. Well, one thing that was really beautiful was that lately my daughter, when she has a tantrum, she goes to a room, any room, right? And she closes the door. And lately, I don't go in after her, but I started writing her notes and like pushing them underneath the door. This time, I write this note with a heart and a smiley next to it, and I push it under the door. And then she came out. The first time she came out saying, "Why did you do that, Mom?" And then I told her, yeah, because I wanted to show you how much I love you. And then like 2, 3 days later, she went into the room again and she's telling me, Mom, and then, while she's like in the tantrum, it's so strange, but that she's telling me, Mom, you can push the letter under the door again, okay? And she goes in. I'm like, okay, why not? And then and we do that every now and then instantly she comes out and then she can like give me a hug, whereby before she was like attacking me and things like that. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great to hear. What a good mommy you are.
I'm not good at hearing this, but yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we can't thank you enough for being a part of our family. And we will see you, I'm sure, again soon. Thank you, Katya, so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
What an amazing story. That's so fantastic. I know it almost makes me want to cry. All of these great stories from all of these parents. Soon we're going to bring in Beth as one of our parents, but I just wanted to share a little bit about my family and my daughter. It was so interesting to hear Katya talk about how, as her bonus kids come in, that it's a little bit difficult. And I know for a lot of families, it's really hard blending those families together. And Julie, you also have a blended family. And so I think that what I've really found that's been really helpful is me and my amazing significant other, Albert, we use special time with all the kids and we're able to tag team. So one of us will do special time with one of the kids and he'll do special time. Even my 23-year-old almost is doing special time with some of the little ones. And it's been so great with blending all the families together. Blending the family together to get them really connected. It's not always easy having a blended family. There's jealousy and frustrations and all these big feelings. So being able to really focus on those feelings and let kids feel them during that significant special time with each of us is really, really huge. So I really...
One of the questions I hear a lot is if I'm doing hand-in-hand parenting at my house and my child is spending, half their time or every other weekend or whatever at another house where they don't do hand-in-hand, does it still count? Does it still help? And I say absolutely yes. My daughter, I had half time. And so she spent a lot of time in a household where the hand-in-hand parenting was not the way things were done. And I still think she benefited a lot from being able to just kind of let go of everything, just to come in the door from her time at the other house and immediately find somebody touched something of hers while she was gone, or you got the dog's hair cut, or you ate my last string cheese. Some horrible affront had occurred while she was away, and she would fall apart. And I think she had just kind of like saved it up, and she'd come home, she'd let it out, and she would literally get up off the floor from a flailing tantrum, get something to drink, go watch a show. Just nothing happened. I'm home now.
It's so hard for little ones and even older ones to go back and forth from their two homes. And I'm a firm believer that children need both their parents. Their relationship didn't work out, that's fine, but they need their daddy and they need their mommy. It's really, really important. And it's hard, in the perfect the perfect of circumstances for kids to go back and forth from the two homes. So having a space at our home or at their mommy's home is so important, and the same for my older daughter, having that space to be able to voice those opinions and those emotions at either place is big. And I think you're right. Hand in hand parenting, whether it's in one home or both households, is beneficial, definitely for them and their little tiny feelings and big feelings.
Even
So
5 minutes can make a big difference to a small child.
absolutely. So we're going to bring on Beth to join us. I'm so excited. Beth, how are you doing?
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. So Beth, why don't you tell us where you're from and how many children you have?
Great. I am from California, and I have 2 children who are 15 months apart.
Oh my goodness. How old are they?
Both in preschool.
Oh my goodness.
My oldest is almost 5, and my younger one is 3.5.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You have your little hands full.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'd love to hear what brought you to Hand in Hand. What were you looking for? How'd you find us?
Yeah. Well, once my youngest was born, my older one was 15 months old and not very verbal. And 1 month after she was born, we moved to a new city about 3 hours away. And so major life changes. And
That's big.
my husband started a new job, and my oldest son started crying at bedtime for at least an hour.
Ooh.
Like every night. And so we Googled, as all parents do, like what is going on? It wasn't colic or anything. And I stumbled upon a Hand in Hand article or two about stay listening. And I was like, well, let's just try it. I mean, so I shared it with my husband, and I was usually with the baby, nursing her while he was putting our son down for bed. And so we just tried it, just really kind of listening and staying with him. And it reassured me that there wasn't something wrong with my son per se, or that we weren't doing something horrific as parents. And that this was probably healthy for him and necessary for him to heal from all these big changes, and a way for him to process it. And a little bit after that, my daughter, got older and started to move and get more attention, and he definitely got jealous. And I was in a new city and at my wit's end and trying so hard to not parent in the way that I was parented. And I just needed more support. So I signed up for a starter class here in Santa Cruz with Grace Fleming and Rita Mori. And it was incredible. And shortly after that, I decided to go ahead and do the instructor training as well. So I've just completed the classes, and it's just been amazing and incredible. So
it's a big challenge to do something differently than the way you were raised. Even if your parents did the best possible job, what we know about parenting now and what they knew about parenting then it's astronomically different.
Yes,
we have information about the brain, we have information about long-term studies, it's a different parenting world.
But like the information alone for me isn't enough, because I know a lot, and I read so many parenting books, before I came to Hand in Hand. I read RIE, Magda Gerber videos, and just all these things.
Great
I was
stuff.
determined that I was going to do this differently. I was going to be this amazing mother, raising our children, raising ourselves. I read and read and read. But when it came to being in the moment and not having the support around me and not having specific tools to, like, instead of just saying, don't do this, don't don't spank, don't yell. It's like, well, then what am I supposed to do? I mean, he's getting my baby, and he's my baby too, and it's just like, it overrides all the things all the intentions and the ideals and the reading, when I don't, for me, again, and I needed listening time so badly. so badly. And then I needed really concrete tools because it's not enough just to say, don't do this. So,
Right, exactly. Where does that leave you? It takes away the only thing you knew, and now go do it different.
And be perfect.
I want to.
Be perfect. Be perfect. Don't cry. Don't yell. You're not allowed to get angry. And if you do all those things, you're going to break your child forever. That's the things I was hearing all the time.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure to be a perfect parent, and I'm so glad that you're here from Santa Cruz, California. First of all, it's a beautiful place, but I know that there's a really big faction of Hand in Hand in Santa Cruz. One of my friends lives in Santa Cruz, and she was saying, I'm so glad that you're working for Hand in Hand. We have this huge group there. And I said, oh, really? That's so great. So I know that Hand in Hand is big in Santa Cruz, but there's definitely communities that don't know about Hand in Hand. And I'm wondering if you could tell someone something about Hand in Hand to kind of get them attached or get them really interested in it, what would that be?
I guess it would depend on the ages of their kids. But the thing that I think about, I guess, is, as you were saying earlier, that, our parents were doing the very best that they could. And I agree. They were doing the very best that they could. And still, though, even when they're not, I think that I'm just seeing more and more that there are parents who don't have relationships with their grown children. And in my family, I know that that's the case. There's examples of that, of people cutting off contact with their parents when they're adults. And so I think, yes, Hand in Hand is wonderful for like that, when the kids are little. Right now, I'm in the trenches, but sometimes I think about how hard the work is right now, like the emotional work that I'm doing with my kids. And it sometimes feels tempting to like just turn the TV on and be like, and yell and threaten and like, that feels sometimes like it would be easier. But I remind myself, like, I'm connecting with them and I'm laying a foundation of a relationship that's going to be this foundation. And later when they're teenagers and when they grow up, like, I'm treating them with respect, and I'm doing all this work with them to respect their feelings and to respect them as fully human, and fully worthy of respect. And they're going to remember it. And I can't guarantee that they're not going to cut me out of their lives when they grow up. But this is kind of the closest that I can get to guaranteeing that, like, right. I'm connecting with them as humans and honoring them and knowing them deeply. And it's just,
it's a different way.
In that sense, it's worth it, right? I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it for me right now that like the preschool teacher is saying they're doing great, because for a while they weren't, that's huge. But the long game for me is also thinking about when they grow up and how they're going to be with their kids and how they're going to be with me. So
you're raising your grandchild's parents.
Potentially, assuming that they have kids, but definitely. Or they're going to be teachers who are around children, or, they're going to somehow pass this on. And I'm so excited to be breaking some cycles.
It's so interesting, Beth, you share a name. My significant other's last name is Hernandez, but you also share some other things. You were talking about being down in the trenches, talking about the long game. And that's something that our family really talks about a lot, because we're really focused on, okay, what can we do now to know that we've done everything that we can to make sure that we have really built this wonderful foundation for a great human being. And, and we talk about how can we, stay connected with my older daughter, who's almost 23, that I've now, I've come to see that there are some things that I've done that probably weren't perfect when I was raising her, and, and adjusting those things for her, and we're seeing a big difference there too. So what I'll
Yeah.
tell you is, even with Hand in Hand and starting at the age of 22, we're seeing changes there too. So I know that Hand in Hand works with all children and all different ages, when it comes to connecting with your child. So I
It works
applaud you.
with adults. I mean, I use it on my husband. Like, I mean, we have special time together occasionally. Sometimes we
Oh.
can't sleep at night, and I'm like, I need 5 minutes of listening time, you
Oh.
know? And I mean, and it's strengthening our relationship. So, I mean, I don't use it on him in like a, you know, it's not like I need to help his behavior or anything, but, you know, like, that's a way to connect. Exactly.
That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that we're helping, all your relationships. And I found the same thing. It is made me a better listener. It's made me more patient. We were talking earlier with someone. It's made my voice more calm, so that there's we're using it in all areas of our life, and
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So, how has your family changed since using Hand in Hand?
Yeah. Definitely we have become more playful as parents. And I feel less guilty.
Oh,
Feel
that's
less
good.
guilty. There's a lot of guilt around my daughter's birth and feeling like I wasn't giving my son all the attention I wanted to give him, and also guilt that I wasn't giving my newborn as much one-on-one attention as my son got. The second born wasn't getting as much. And I'm also feeling way more empowered to get the support that I need. I know now, deeply know, and I know how to get the support that I need to be a good parent and to be a healthy person. Like, when I did the starter class, that is what struck me the most, was the listening partnership. That was a gold mine for me. And I just was hungry for it. And it was like, once I got that, I just never stopped. And so for me, it's like, yeah, of course I couldn't parent differently if I wasn't getting this ongoing support, and having the work that I do be acknowledged by someone, like, not thanked, not having someone say thank you, thank you for taking care of the kids. No, like, just saying, I see how hard you're working, like, and it's important, and it is hard, and I'm here with you. Like, that's that makes me want to cry every time, and I love being able to say that to other parents when I'm listening to them, and letting them know. And it's so powerful to support other parents and be supported. That mutual relationship is, oh gosh, like, just fills my soul, like, makes me feel like this is important work, and I'm not alone in valuing it and wanting to talk about it. Like, I get to talk about my parenting with people, for 15 minutes every other day, or once or twice a week, and I have a part-time job, but this is my work. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, I often say that Hand in Hand is enlightening and educating for parents, because it's a way that we are enlightened, that we have all of these things that we're carrying with us that we might be transferring to our little people. But it's this education of how we can really focus on being the best person that we want to be. Because, we talk often about children being perfect and being good people, but we as parents are also good people, and sometimes we forget that as we're working through and being in the trenches with our children every day. So it's really great to hear that Hand in Hand has made such a huge difference in your life, and we're really, really lucky to have you. So in the spirit of Hand in Hand, I'm wondering if you could tell us something that went well this week for you.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but it was huge. This Thursday, I picked up my kids from preschool, and the director of the preschool told me that they had an amazing day. That my son in particular was doing a really good job of, like, using his words, and he's a very physical kid, and he has some anxiety, like, just, within the normal range, but he tends to be more on the anxious side, but it doesn't doesn't come across that way to people. He comes across as brash and strong and, you know, aggressive. And we actually had quite a few issues with aggression at his earlier preschool and even at this new one. And so to come to school and hear that they both had a great day and that she wished that they had school the next day because it was just so successful. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, and I know that, you know, and Patty has said in our classes, like, your kids are good, even when they are being aggressive and they're doing these things that we think of as bad, like, they're still good kids. And it's still my work to really, really like internalize that and believe it. And then also to internalize for myself, like the moments when I have a parenting fail, that just like when my kid is a little aggressive or whatever, like he's still good and I'm still good. There's no perfection here. That's not even a goal. Like that's not even possible, but what does it mean to really think that he's truly a good child, even if he's just hit his sister over the head? And what does it mean to think that I'm a good parent, even when I've messed up, and that there's like that possibility to reconnect and do it better the next time. So
thank you.
Yeah, it was huge.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you to Hand in Hand.
Oh, well, you know, we have to every day. I thank Patty for being creating such an amazing revolutionary parenting tool. So I'm really glad that you're a part of our family, and thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
So, Julie, I am going to ask you if you can share a little bit more about the Parenting Club while I take a second to try to see if we can load up that amazing video that you created, the animation, on my desktop. So I'm going to let you go solo to talk about the Parenting Club while I try to figure this out real quick, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So the Parenting Club is a membership that gives you all kinds of information about Hand in Hand. It gives you an email every Monday with your video, your audio, your podcast, whatever information is top of mind, and kind of gets your parenting on track for the week and sets the tone. And you also are part of a private Facebook group for members where you can connect with other parents, you can share your success stories, you can tell us went well, you can also tell us what's making you crazy, and have a space where you can get more information and connect with other people that are all doing the same thing that you're doing. They're all learning to bring together the tools of hand-in-hand parenting and to use the whole system. The hand-in-hand parenting tools are easy to talk about as a thing, like special time is a thing, and listening partnerships are a thing. But if you use your listening partnership, your special time is going to go a lot better. If you do special time, your setting limits is going to go a lot better. They all feed into one another and support one another. And that all starts with you getting the support that you need. So the Hand in Hand Parent Club is a wonderful way for you to stay connected with other parents who are doing this, to stay topped up so that you've got the information you need, the support that you need, the backing, and you've got somebody to ask your questions every week, whether it's on a conference call or Facebook Live. We're going to have instructors there to walk you through it, to step by step take you through, okay, here's how you use Hand in Hand for this problem. And here's how you apply the other tools in the kit to give you the support that you need to do that thing well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's somebody to check in and say, okay, I tried this and here's what happened and I wish it had gone this way. So what do I do? What adjustments do I make? It's a place where people who are really interested in doing a deeper dive into what hand-in-hand parenting can do for your family and the kinds of changes that are possible to gather and to stay connected with instructors, a place where Patty can drop in, see how you are, where you can have regular Facebook Lives with Patty and ask her your questions, hear her thoughts about different aspects of parenting, different things that come up. It's really meant for people who want to know more. If you're curious about how it all works, if you want to see a change in your family, if you just want to understand the ins and outs, if you want to get more support for yourself, or if you just want that community, if you want to be part of something and belong to a group that cares deeply about one another and about parenting, the Parent Club is a great place for you. This next week, while we're talking about and introducing the Parent Club, we have a special intro price. So be sure you check it out before the 22nd so you can save 40% on your membership in the Parent Club. No, Lonnie, I can't hear you. I wonder if other people can hear you or not. Hang on for just a second while we review our technical options here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Perfect.
I can. Sounds great.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to try to share this great video that kind of goes over what the Parent Club is. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Well, you know what? I can't. So unfortunately, I can't share it with everyone. But there's this amazing video on our Hand in Hand Facebook page that is a short 30-second video that shows kind of what our Parent Club is, and it's fantastic. You know, Julie was just talking about how it is. The Parent Club is really about support and having those difficult times be supported by the entire club, but also giving you the information that you need on a weekly basis. And in the club, we have great moderators that are in there who are able to link you to the best information, and it takes a deeper dive than our support group does, that free support group that we have. It takes a little bit of a deeper dive to give information, to tell you how to do things, to really work through some of those things that you have that are bothering you, that are frustrating for you and your family. So we would love to have you be a part of the Parenting Club. We, like Julie was saying, it's an introductory price of $15 until the end of next week. It's a great Father's Day gift for people.
Oh, there you go.
You know, I think of it this way. If I had the Parenting Club, it's 5 coffees a month for me, or probably, 5 coffees a month to not buy, to have the best parenting information out there at the tip of my fingers. I think about when Jenna Lynn, my oldest one, was little, and I was in the library all the time checking out books, trying to figure out exactly what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong, you know, and I was very, very lucky with Jenna Lynn. She was such a perfect little girl. She would come with me, but I didn't understand all of the things that were going on, and really what they were is just her own feelings of emotion and frustration. And having Hand in Hand now with her has been great to be able to really give her that space to be heard, her emotions heard, and it's fantastic for the rest of our family. And my bonus kids definitely benefit from, you know, my daughter always says the new and improved mom. It's just, and she always says, you know, it's not that you were a bad mom, you were just now a new and improved mom. So I'm so thankful for Hand in Hand and what it's done. So Julie, why don't you tell us a little bit about how it helped you with your family?
So I hunted for hand in hand, pretty much the same way that everybody else did. My daughter was young. She was a year and a half, maybe. And man, she was expressive. I mean, I grew up in a family where we sat down to dinner at exactly 6:30 and no one spoke. We listened to NPR on the radio and it was all things considered and dinner. Like we didn't talk about feelings. We didn't talk about anything. So here's this child who has these huge emotions. And I was blown away. I had no idea what to do with her. And the only thing I knew was that I didn't want to raise her in a house with no emotions. I didn't want her to have that. It was a cold, impersonal sort of place. I didn't want that for her. And it was really hard to do something else. It felt really unnatural and it felt like I was play acting at it. And so I started looking around, and Patty was teaching a class at Habitat in Berkeley. If you have any idea, the Bay Area, my family was in Half Moon Bay, and we drove across the entire Bay Area to Berkeley for 3 Tuesday nights so that we could take this class with Patty. Her dad and I both went. And the first time we were in that class, I literally, right now, I can feel what it felt like to relax into the passenger seat of the car after the class. I'm going home, and for the first time since they told me I had to take that baby home with me from the hospital, I relaxed. I remember that moment of feeling like, oh my God, it's going to be okay. And I literally had not felt like that. I felt like I was going to be okay and she was going to be okay and that we were going to figure this out and that it didn't have to be easy, but it was going to be all right. And from there, of course, I had my set of booklets, which I kept in the bathroom. It took me a year to read the entire set of booklets. But I kept them there and I kept at it. And a small group of us in Half Moon Bay got together and we had another class. And I just learned as much as I could about it. And then I went to UC Davis for a year. And I did a certificate course in what was then called psychobiology. Today, they would call it interpersonal neuroscience. It's the kind of work that Dan Siegel does, the kind of stuff that he and his, what's her name? Tina somebody. We'll put the right name in the links for you. Sorry about that. But a lot of people talk about it now. But I was years ago, a dozen years ago or more, I was sitting in those classes and I was thinking to myself, as I learned more about neuroscience and development, I kept thinking to myself, you know what? That's why special time works. Mm-hmm. That's why stay listening is important. Mm-hmm. That's what it all it made sense to me in a whole new way. And I came back to the Bay Area from Davis just on fire to make sure that other people knew about this information, because I felt like I suffered for 2 years and my daughter suffered for her first 2 years. For what? For nothing, unnecessarily. And there are parents out there right now who are having a much harder time than they need to. If they just had some simple practical tools, some support, and a way to put them together, their lives and their children's lives would be so much easier. So that's why I'm in charge of marketing at Hand in Hand, because I want everybody to know this. I don't want anybody to be miserable with a new baby in their arms. It doesn't have to be like that.
Right. It doesn't. It's, parenting is difficult, is a difficult job, and it doesn't come with a manual at all. And
Right? And
we're
you're
just
sleep deprived.
and hungry and exhausted when you first have your baby and not showered for days. It's all things that we don't ever talk about, but they're all things that every parent goes through, and we know that they do. And what Hand in Hand is gives you the ability to be okay with your feelings and be okay with your little one's feelings and know that that everything is okay and it'll be okay.
It
It'll
makes
be
an
okay.
enormous difference in your ability to be yourself and relax and let your child be themselves. They are built to be emotional. That's what makes us human. So
Right.
all those years of, go away and come back when you can put a nice face on, I just didn't want that for her. And I don't think any child benefits from that. It's for the parent. You're making me uncomfortable, showing me your feelings, so please go away now. It just opens up a whole new world of being close and being authentic and being loving with one another. It brought so much warmth, and it's just way more fun.
It is. It is. And I'm so happy that we have all these parents here today sharing these stories, just like your story. Today, we also have Sarah Richards. We're going to bring her into the broadcast so she can share a little bit with us about Hand in Hand. So I'm really excited to have Sarah here today. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hey, hello.
Hey,
Uh,
Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Sarah, why don't we start with you telling us where you're from and about your children a little bit?
Sure. I'm from St Ives in Cornwall in the UK, and I live here with my husband and my two children, who are Theo, who's 8, and Bella, who's 4, nearly 5. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us from the UK. We appreciate it. That actually helps me answer a question that we had in the lobby before we continue. One of the questions that we had was if the Hand in Hand Parent Club was international. So I just wanted to kind of address that a little bit. We Hand in Hand Parent Club is in English currently. There is the feature on Facebook that translates it into different languages. However, it's not always the best, and we try, because we have instructors all over the world. We try to help with addressing cultural issues and ethnic and diversity issues. But currently, the first iterative version of the Hand in Hand Parent Club is in English and is probably close to UK, US, and Australia. But we do know, some of our instructors have said from Egypt and Romania and various places like that, they'll be dropping into the Parent Club. So don't feel hesitant about joining the Parent Club if you're not right here in the US, because we'll definitely be able to help you. So I just wanted to let the viewers know that. So I'm going to steal Julie's question. Sarah, what brought you to Hand in Hand and how did you find us?
Um, it's a good question. I was a bit desperate, really. So Bella, my young
Oh, I think we might have lost her audio. I'm going to put her down in the lobby because unfortunately we can't hear her. I was so excited to hear her story, Julie. Let's get Jana to get a hold of her just really quickly. Sarah, can you hear us, Sarah? Let's see. We want to bring her back on. Let's see. Why don't you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us, Sarah? Okay, she's putting in her earphones. Let's see if that works. Okay, I'm going to bring her back to the broadcast. Let's see if that works. Sarah, can you hear us now? Oh no, I don't think can you hear us? We can't hear you, unfortunately. Oh no.
So sorry about the technical problem.
Yeah, we're sorry about that. We'll try one other thing.
Anything?
No. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Sarah, why don't you contact Jana, and if we can get the technical difficulties working, we'll get you right back on.
I
So,
would love to hear from you.
yeah, definitely. So, I am so excited about this parent club and very, very jealous of all the parents that get to use this. I really wish that I had this club when Jenilyn was growing up. I would have used it all the time. What do you think? My favorite thing about the parent club, besides the parent support, is that we get to hear from Patty on almost a monthly basis. There was a sample of what what Patty would be like in the parent club. We did 3 Facebook lives in the last 3 days, and parents can go and view that to get a kind of a sample of what they would get if they were a part of the parent club. Julie, what do you?
Those were great conversations.
Yeah, I think they were really honest conversations. Before we brought Sarah in, one of the things that we were talking about was that sometimes we we don't talk about parenting and the difficulties that come with parenting. And parenting is really difficult because it doesn't come with a manual. You never know what you're going to get.
No,
I know.
figure it out.
You never know what's going to happen. And, I think that Hand in Hand is probably the closest thing that you're going to get to having a manual for parenting and for your kids. I don't know how you feel in regards to that.
So one of the things I really love about the Parent Club is the stuff that comes with it. All these recordings of various calls and Facebook Lives about different topics, I like to go over them. If, I've got a question from somebody about, my 3-year-old pees in my shoes. Okay? So this is the question I was asked from a parent this week. What am I supposed to do with my 3-year-old who pees in my good shoes? Not in her sneakers, not in, her sandals or whatever, in the shoes she wears to work. Like, what do you do with that? It's a vaguely disturbing habit. So I like to be able to go back and look at the different talks, and I like that they're all right there and organized in the Parent Club, so I can look at, separation anxiety. I can look at, leaving for work. I can look at different things that are there to review, because I'm not always working with a parent who's facing the challenge that's being discussed right that minute. But you never know what's going to come up.
Right.
You never know what the next surprise thing your child is going to spring on you is. And I like that it has that archive. I like that. And I love that the setting limits and building cooperation class is inside the club.
Right.
So
right.
I can watch those videos 100 times if I want to. Sometimes I need a few times through to make sure I've got it right. And later, when, cooperation is not, please take your dish to the sink after dinner, and becomes, no, you really have to do your math homework.
Right.
I can go back and I can review it, and I can apply those tools to a different situation. So the toolbox is really helpful no matter how old your kids are. But the situations are going to keep changing, and the challenges are not going to end. They're going to be 23, and you're still going to need to support for your parenting.
Right.
It's
I
a
agree.
job that goes on and on and on. And
Never
you
stops.
change, your child changes, the world around you changes, and I can go back and I can look and I can be reminded
Right.
that this is all possible and that it's all okay. And I can go through whatever the articles were that were shared, the videos, the recordings. Um, I just like it's like a treasure box. I have that all that stuff in one place where I can check it out when I need it.
I agree. We have Sarah back on. We're going to try her one
Okay.
more time. Let's see if it works. We're hoping, we're, talking. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hey,
Oh, yay. We're so excited. Sarah,
lost
great.
in space.
No, it's okay. So you were telling us about your little ones.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying that yes, I came to Hand in Hand. I found it on a Facebook pop-up and I just read the sort of basic thing about what it was and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is perfect." Yeah, so I signed up to do like a self-guided sleep talk,
Oh, yeah.
the self-guided sleep course.
Were you
Yeah.
sleep deprived at the time?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was really desperate. I was crying most days and just so
Oh.
desperate just to be able to play with the kids. And, I was just like, oh my gosh, someone's got to help me. I was pretty bad.
Sleep
Well,
deprivation is hard.
Yeah,
They
it's
use it
really
as
hard.
torture for a reason.
yeah, exactly. So what is it that you would want someone to know about Hand in Hand that didn't know about us?
It's real. It's really real.
Yes.
And it is just full of people who've been there. They're real people who've had these challenges and they've walked the walk. They're not trying to just palm you off with a little fix it thing, because I tried lots of that. Um, they're there to really support you through those challenges and find what works for you and your child rather than what
Hmm.
works for the prescription of Hand in Hand. It's more
Hmm.
about what works for you and your family. And they're totally, it's a real dedicated program for that, which, I love basically. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that you get that's different with Hand in Hand because it's a nonprofit organization.
Hmm.
It's a community good organization. The people who become our instructors are people that they're dedicated to helping.
Yeah.
That's what they care about. They want you to have the best possible family. And that's why they're working for a charity. And that's why it's a mission. It's not just a job.
Right.
It's a way of being in the world that Hand in Hand instructors really believe could make things different. So you get, I don't know, it's a different feel because it's a nonprofit. It's not a company that's answering to the bottom line. It's a bunch of people working as hard as we can with as little as we can to do as much for families as possible because we love it and because we've benefited ourselves and we
Hmm.
want other people to have it. So I'm so glad that you found us.
Oh, we lost her. Oh no.
Sarah.
It's okay. We got to hear a little bit from her about why she loved Hand in Hand. She made a real great comment, and that comment was that Hand in Hand was real. It was about real people, about who are doing real work, and I appreciate that comment because it definitely was. It's the way that I felt in regards to it. I think we might. Uh, yeah, it was definitely the way that I feel about Hand in Hand. I've worked for a lot of nonprofits, but Hand in Hand was kind of the first nonprofit where I felt the work that we were doing was really making a difference. And we actually, what we say is change parenting and you change the world. And I think that we wholeheartedly believe that, every person has either had a parent or is a parent. And, the work that we do is so important, that I truly do believe that this is something that is going to change the world. So I tear up when I think about all of the lives that Patty has changed thus far and what we're getting ready to do. So I love it. Absolutely love it. While we wait for our last guest, why don't we talk a little bit about the Parent Club and what some of the parents who are viewing might get in regards to the Parent Club. So I was just talking about one of my favorite things was the support, but I also think that the other thing that is my favorite is that Patty comes in um, every 4 to 5 weeks and does those Facebook Lives that we were just talking about. She is the founder of Hand in Hand, and she has been instrumental in the last 30 years of changing lives. What would you say is something that is really valuable about the Parenting Club?
So I want to say a few words about Patty. She's really our inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And what Patty's able to do is distill all that experience, all that time with thousands, literally thousands and thousands of parents and children that she's worked with over the years, and bring that to bear on your question, your family, it's like having Olympic level parenting
Yes.
experts right there at your kitchen table.
Yes.
Figure out how to do these things. And with so many hours in practicing and experimenting and making mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and figuring it out and learning what works and what to
Mm-hmm.
try when, it's a great experience having that attention on your particular question or need or wacky thing that your kid has come up with. So I know everybody in the Parent Club is going to enjoy having that experience with Patty. But it's not just Patty every 4 or 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
every week. You've got an instructor to ask your questions, to
Mm-hmm.
guide you along the way, to encourage a discussion. And that makes a big, big difference. Getting your ideas out of your own head and into a conversation with somebody else, it always helps me figure out what's a really stupid idea, because some stuff that sounds really great inside my head does not sound all that great outside of my head. But being able to share it and say it helps me
Right.
figure out, oh, is this a good fit or not? And I get to hear from other people.
Right.
And I'm a joiner.
Right.
I love being in the club. I love my garden club and my homeschooling group. And I'm one of those people that really enjoys that sense of community, and like
Right.
I feel safe with my people,
Right.
with people who like understand the language and are trying the tools and making mistakes at their house too. And that's part of it that I really enjoy.
It's and I'm not a joiner. So, but what I've seen with the Parent Club is that support. We're going to bring on our next and last guest for this 2-hour period. We'll be back at 1:00. So you don't have to miss us for too long. Julie and I will be back here. Our next guest is LaTanya, and she's going to come in and talk about her experiences with Hand in Hand. We're so excited to have LaTanya with us today. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
We're doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
We are excited to have you here. So I was wondering, LaTanya, first of all, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Okay, good. Fantastic. So, can you tell us where you're from and how many children and their ages?
I am from Shreveport, Louisiana, but I live in Manassas, Virginia right now. I have two daughters. I have a 25-year-old and I have a just newly turned 5-year-old.
Oh
So
my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
You and Noe
You
Lonnie are going to have a lot to talk about.
I have a 23-year-old and I have three bonus children who are 16-year-old daughter, 9-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son.
oh my
So,
God, you look amazing.
oh, well, you look amazing. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, what brought you to Hand in Hand? How did you find us?
Okay, I was in a Montessori group for parents of toddlers. When my daughter was young, she was about 8 months, not no, maybe about a year. And there was a thread, and there was this one lady who spoke of hand in hand, and she was telling some of the what the approach would be like in the situation. And I was intrigued, and so I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, okay, wow, nice." And years ago, with my first daughter, I was, well, I thought I was parenting non-punitively, but I wasn't. I used
Hmm.
time out, and
Hmm.
so hand in hand intrigued me because there's no time out. You parent totally by connection. And at first, I thought I knew everything I needed to know. I was like, oh, I already know this. I got it. Okay, I'll just take the instructor's course because I've been doing this for years. And da, da, da. So I took the instructor's course and I found out, wow, I didn't really have it. And I studied and practiced the approach. And yeah, that's my experience with coming into hand in hand. I wanted to know all that I could possibly know. I took one of the introductory courses, and then I took the instructor's course because the introductory course wasn't enough for me. I just wanted to dive deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's been amazing.
Can you tell us some of the things that you noticed that are different? You have a
Okay.
unique situation where you raised one child completely differently than the other.
Yes, yes. Well, one particular thing was, although years ago I think I was being a little evolutionary with my parenting in that I didn't spank, I used time out. And
Hmm.
another thing was with the tantrums. Having a tantrum, in my culture is like totally unheard of.
Hmm.
Just don't do that. But with
Hmm.
my oldest daughter, I allowed her to have them, and I would say to her, "It's okay to express your feelings. It's okay. You can let it all out, but you may not do it in front of everyone else.
Hmm.
You may go into your room and have your tantrum with yourself, okay?" And I would hug her and send her away. And I mean, I guess that was I mean, it was the best that I could do, and it was better
It
than
was a
everybody
step in the
around
right
me
direction,
could do.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Yeah.
with my present daughter, I don't do that, and I allow her to have her feelings, and I sit with her as she has, I sit with her as she has, stay listen with her as she has those feelings. And there was one particular situation where we were at the mall and we gone into this store. I can't think of the name of it, but they have all these like baubles for your hair and pretty earrings for the little girls and all this cute stuff. And we were going for a purse that she'd seen the week before. And so on the way we went to the purse. She chose a purse she wanted. I was very proud that she remembered which one she wanted. But on the way to the counter, she saw something else she wanted. And I was like, no, we're not buying that. And she was like, yes, we're buying it. And I was like, no, we're not buying it. And I was like, come on, let's go. And she just went berserk. She was like, she cried and she was kicking and flailing her arms and just all over the place. And I was like, okay. So if there's any time that I need to use these tools, let me use them now. And so she kicked and she threw herself on the floor. She was like all over the place. And I held her legs and I said, I won't let you hurt me and I won't let you hurt yourself. I'm just going to hold you. You know, I'm here. I'm just going to hold your legs and hold her. I held her arms a little bit and I said, it's okay. I didn't talk much. I just held her. And she went on and on for about almost, it was a long time, like 6-7 minutes. And I just held her and I just was there and I rocked her. You know, after a while, she kind of, you know, she wasn't as intense. And I just rocked her and just held her. And I didn't say much. And I just stroked her head. And I was there for her. And I would just make little noises like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, and I was thinking to myself, you know, what would I want to do if, what would I want somebody to do if I was just having a really hard day and, you know, and I just needed someone to talk to and I'm emotional. What would I want somebody to do? And I just thought I want them to be there for me. And
Yeah.
it was at that moment, it was that particular situation, even though I had been practicing the hand-in-hand approach for a while, but it was that particular situation that really made me understand what being connected was all about, because there were people walking around and
Oh,
although I thought they were going to be staring at me, they just kind of kept going. And I just kept rocking her and I kept holding her and and I just really placed all of my attention on her. And I just was like, I'm going to be here for her, to support her through this moment that is so overwhelmingly um, huge for her and all of these emotions that she's having. And so I was there. And then all of a sudden, I mean, well, not all of a sudden, it took some time. She kind of just stopped crying. And I just kept rocking her, kept holding her. And finally, it was over. And we stood up and I held her hand and I said, you ready now? And she said, yeah. And we paid for the merchandise. And I kind of came out of the moment at that time because like I'm standing face to face with the cashier and she's seen it all and I'm kind of like and she was like, that was amazing. She said, you're
Oh,
such a good mother. I've never seen anybody handle it like
oh,
such a good mom. And I was like, really? Because you know, that was something that I never did with my oldest daughter. And I was never allowed to do it.
oh
And
no.
to do that with my daughter at that moment, and then she just kind of was like a new child afterwards. She was, well, not a new child, but she was back to herself. She was laughing and smiling. We walked down the mall, and then that night it was just really different. She the night just went really well, our nighttime routine. And that morning, she usually would wake up and go to her dad's room, but she woke up and she came to my room. At the time I was studying, so we were sleeping in different rooms. Came to my room and joined me, and she was so pleasant. You know, she just held me and I held her. And that morning routine went so well. And I felt something that I never felt before. And I understood what being connected was all about. And I understood what stay listening, although I thought I'd been doing it before. And to a degree, I was doing it. But that moment, you know, it was just the most memorable moment for me. Well, one of the most memorable moments.
Beautiful.
But Hand in Hand has given me the tools to evolutionize my parenting. And I understand what I'm after is that connection,
Oh, yeah.
because I know that my oldest daughter and I had a really strong connection. And it was because I didn't hit her, I didn't spank her. I dealt with her in a different way. And I allowed her to be herself, but not as much as with my youngest daughter. It's like with my youngest daughter, um, I fully allow her, well, as much as I can, because sometimes it can be, after a long day's work, it can be, kind of challenging. But I allow her to really express her emotions and support her through it, not
Mm-hmm.
banish her off to be alone as she, has these emotions, or not, become embarrassed in public when she's having the emotions. I'm with her and I'm her partner, and I'm there to, help her through it. Yeah. So
You
that's my
know,
situation.
so first of all, what an amazing mommy you are. With
Uh,
both of them, with both of them. One of the things that I'm hearing what you're saying is probably something that I'm experiencing too with the range of children that I have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I use hand in hand techniques with my 23-year-old, almost 23. I'm not going to let her have that quite yet. Almost 23. um, but one of the things that I hear you saying, and it's something that I experience too, is that guilt, because I have my amazing daughter who I was very close with too, and did some of the same things. My parents did, very similar. You never threw tantrums outside the house, or frankly inside the house either. So,
Right, right.
and so I thought that I was parenting, being, like you said, revolutionary, and we're not going to spank, and, we're going to just do timeouts. Um, and the difference between Hand in Hand and what I was doing, very similar. How do you, and the way that I deal with my guilt is through my listening partnerships, because, I am now parenting with Hand in Hand with the little ones. How do you do the same thing with the guilt that I'm hearing you have? And I'm hearing that. So
every parent does something they feel bad about. You don't have to have children of very different ages.
no, I know.
Let me tell you.
Do you
I didn't
use
really
like?
recognize that I had guilt.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think, I mean,
I'm the
really,
one who has guilt.
I just think, I just think that I've grown, and
You learn
Yeah,
more, you do
you know,
better.
yeah.
I, I don't know that I have guilt about that.
I totally
I,
just put all my guilt on you. So I'm the one who has guilt. That's what I deal with in my
but
listening partnerships.
most of the guilt that I have is I think with the younger one, because I'm older now, and with the older one, it's like, even though I wasn't able to, well, I didn't know any different, but I feel like I was more open then. I didn't care about a messy house, I didn't care about all those different things. So now with the younger one, I'm like a little bit more picky, because I'm like, you're 50, you should have a clean house. And so these things get to me, but what I do is I go to my listening partnership and I talk to my listening partner, and that helps me tremendously.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And in a parent club, we're able to kind of pair you with listening partners there too, and do that venting. So we've heard your story is so beautiful. I can't even express that enough. Patty even said inside, just so you know, Patty's also listening. She said, "What a beautiful story! You're so inspiring."
Oh, thank you, Patty.
Thanks
um,
for sharing that with us.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So we've heard how your family's changed, and what you would want someone to know about Hand in Hand. Is there anything else that you would love to share with us about the hand-in-hand techniques, or anything that you would love to share about just your experiences with
Can I
hand-in-hand?
tell one more
Oh, of
thing?
course, of
Please.
course.
All right, so and I'm glad Patty's here because she impacted me so much when I wrote her in the instructors group about my struggle with play special time. It was like I just couldn't really be there for my daughter like I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that maybe no one was there for you in that way. And so, and it made me think, and I was like, nobody was there for me in that way. So anyway, my daughter takes violin lessons. She's taken them since she was 3. And so I was finding it hard to practice with her, and I was like feeling so bad about it because it's like, oh my God, my daughter was like, she wasn't really, like, she was really progressing at one point, and then I would take her to the lessons, but I just couldn't practice for some reason like I should. So anyway, I decided to talk to my listening partner about it. And so as I was talking to my listening partner,
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking back on when I was a little girl and I took piano lessons, and my parents would take me to the piano lessons, and practicing and everything was left up to me, and then I go back to the piano lessons, they drop me off, and then they go away. And that made me connect with what my daughter would probably be feeling when she had violin, and then I didn't support her through the process because I would come home and practice. Nobody really even, not that they didn't care, it's just maybe they didn't know to be involved or that I needed support. And so as I was talking to my listening partner, she asked me to talk, say what I would say to my parents. And so I spoke to my mom and my dad, they're both deceased, but I spoke to them and I said to them, I really could have used some support, and I just let it all out. So after that, it was like, we practice every day. And she has grown so much with her violin, and I still go to my listening partner about it because just to release and to make sure we stay on track, because it seemed like just talking to my listening partner about it and making those connections was like magical for me. And because I wanted to practice with my daughter so much, but I just couldn't get past that wall. And yeah, that's another situation where hand in hand just really helped me, the tools. And I just wish I could express it, as intensely as it helped, because I really wanted to be there for my daughter and I wanted to practice with her. And just sharing and talking to my listening partner really helped me get past that.
Thank you. That is such. I love you so much. I can't even handle it. I need to fly out to Virginia right now because you and I are kindred spirits. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We really love it. And in the spirit of hand in hand, why don't you tell us something that went well this week for you?
Oh boy, I posted about it in the parent group. My daughter didn't want to clean up, and so she sprinkled chocolate sprinkles all over the stairs.
Oh,
And
right,
yeah,
right.
and
Yes.
then I went and I saw the stairs that I swept up, and I mean I just vacuumed, and these chocolate sprinkles are all over, and she's over, running around, and I'm like, hey, come and clean this, and she's like, no, you do it. And I was like, So anyway, she was doing handstands, and I went and joined her, and I started doing handstands with her, and then she was just giggling, and I was giggling too, and then I played some music, some reggae, and we danced and we played, and then after about 15 minutes of playing around, we went back to those chocolate sprinkles, and I gave her the little broom, and I said, hey, come on, let's do this. And she was like, okay. And I said, we'll do it together. And we did it together. So that went really well for me.
Yay, what a great story. Fantastic.
All right.
LaTanya, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you. Oh, she disappeared on me. It's okay. What a great story that was. So fantastic. So we are going to be back in about, what is it, 4 hours? Yeah, a few hours. We're going to be back at 1. We have a very full schedule of about 8 parents that are going to share wonderful stories with us about Hand in Hand. But in the meantime, if you're interested in becoming a part of our parent club, we would love to have you. We're going to share the link down below. The Parent Club is a group, a special group on Facebook where you get the best information that we have to share on a weekly basis in email. You have the private Facebook group. It's a safe space for you to share your stories and get support. And we have live weekly sessions with our deeply qualified instructors who have a wealth of experience on their own. And then to top it off, you also get monthly Facebook Lives with Patty Wiffler, our founder. So we are really, really excited about this. And so Julie and I will be back in a few hours. Julie, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I just thanks everybody for being here. This has been it's been incredible.
Great. Well, we'll see you again real soon. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
I know, Lonnie.
Bye.